Hey, welcome back to Max and Mello's Architects of Soul. We are diving deep today into a man who didn't just play the bass. No. He turned it into a weapon of mass percussion. All right, where's the rim shot? We're talking about the star child himself, William Bootsy Collins.
If Stevie Wonder was the architect of the sound, Bootsy is the architect of the groove.
Yes, sir.
He's the reason why modern R&B and soul artists today understand the rhythm isn't just a background, it's the heartbeat.
Oh, it definitely is. And we're looking at his journey from a teenage prodigy in Cincinnati to the University of James Brown, and that's some badass school, and eventually to the cosmic madness of George Clinton and P-Funk.
But this isn't just a history lesson. We're looking at the Bootsy Blueprint, how his lessons on discipline, branding, and the one are literally the DNA of what artists like Silksonic, Thundercat, and even we as creators are doing right now.
That's right, Mello. It's about taking that soul fire from the past and using it to light up the new vibe. We're going to get into the hardest working man in show business boot camp right after this.
Stick around. The funk is just getting started.
And you're listening to Max and Mello's Architects of Soul. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
That's right. We're getting started here with Bootsy, baby.
Bootsy, baby.
On the one.
On the one.
Don't go nowhere.
Yep, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Architects of Soul. Before we hit the strings, if you like this content, please give a like and subscribe to our channel.
Yes, please.
And remember, there's a video version available on our YouTube page if you feel like watching instead of just listening.
That's right. All right, Mel, let's talk about 1970. Bootsy is 18 years old. James Brown's entire band walks out over a pay dispute. Now, don't that just figure? Mm-hmm. And Bootsy and his brother Phelps, Catfish Collins, who was a guitar player, get the call. Wow, talk about a trial by fire. They went from playing small clubs to being the heartbeat of the Godfather of Soul overnight.
It was the James Brown University, and the tuition was steep. James was a strict architect. He used to fine guys for everything, unpolished shoes, a late entrance, or a missed note.
Yep. And if you haven't caught it, go back last season, we did one on James Brown. You'll find out that James Brown was definitely an architect, and he made people work. So Bootsy tells a story about James where he was watching James's hands go up during a show. Now, Mel, it turns out you knew this, but I did not. No, that hand going up wasn't just dance moves. No, it wasn't. And no, he wasn't conducting either. No, I didn't know that either. It turns out James was holding up fingers to the band. No, not telling them to go to the break, telling them 2 fingers was a $20 fine. Mm-hmm. 5 fingers was a $50 fine.
You got it.
He was literally deducting from their paycheck in real time while singing I Feel Good. And I guess for James Brown, saving money, he'd got to feel good.
Probably true, Max. But that discipline created a professional architect.
Hell yeah.
Still, the musical lesson was even deeper. It was about the one. When Bootsy first got into James's band, he played a lot of notes.
Oh, he played a hell of a lot of notes, truly. And that didn't sit well with James at all. And James fabulously told Bootsy, son, I don't need you to play a lot of melodies. I need you to be the beat. Everything else is just gravy. So, they joined JB's band in March 1970 and played with him till February of 71. And the story is that, again, he played a lot of notes. And James would come over to him and stand in front of him, waving his arms, screaming, telling him, no, the one, not a lot of notes, the one, always the one. And Bootsy trying to impress James, you're not impressing me, son, you're not impressing me, I need you on the one. And even though it was less than a year this time that they called the James Brown Boot Camp, but they played nearly every single night and rehearsed constantly. And of course, anybody who knows about James Brown knows that's all they ever did was rehearse. So in 11 months, they recorded some of the most important funk tracks of all time, including Get Up, Sex Machine, Superbad, and Soul Power.
And then there's that legendary night in Cincinnati, Max.
Yeah, there's that night.
That changed Bootsy's trajectory. Bootsy and Catfish were back in their hometown and things got wild. Bootsy had experimented all night with some LSD before the set. Mm-hmm. And under the stage lights, his bass strings started looking like live snakes.
There goes Bootsy.
He actually stopped playing the groove and started wrestling the instrument.
Now, this is where you see the architect in James Brown. And this is amazing. Most bosses would have had a meltdown. And you'd think James would have had a meltdown. But James was a total pro. He didn't stop the show. He walked over, leaned into Bootsy's ear mid-song, and calmly whispered, pick up the snake, son. Just play the one on the snake.
He coached him through the entire set. He saved the show for the fans, but as soon as that curtain dropped, the professionalism of the university took over.
Oh, yeah.
James fired both Bootsy and Catfish on the spot.
That's such a powerful lesson for our peers. So when the industry gets chaotic or when your personal life feels like a snake, you got to finish the job. Find the one. He learned the rules like a pro so he could break them like a god. And we will talk more about how he took that one and where he blasted it into outer space with right after the break.
And you're kicking it with Max and Mello's Architects of Soul. We're talking Bootsy, baby.
And we're back. We just left the James Brown boot camp where everything was about discipline and fines. Yeah, that's right. 2 fingers, $20.
5 fingers, $50.
That shit is so funny. Now we're entering the 1970s with George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic. Now this is where the architect gets his wings, right, Mello? Literally. This is actually the perfect musical paradox. It was incredibly difficult because the two styles, James Brown's and George Clinton's, were complete polar opposites. Yet, it was the only thing that made P-Funk's outside approach commercially viable. Integrating the one into George Clinton's chaos was like trying to put a leash on a supernova. And why, Mello, that integration was such a pivotal, difficult, and ultimately genius move for the architecture of soul.
Yes, Max. Under James Brown, the one was shackled.
It was more like a lock. I don't really think like a shackle.
Right. It was about staying in a tiny, perfect box.
It was a beautiful box.
If you stepped outside that box, you got fined.
Right. 2 for 20, 5
for 50. George Clinton's approach was the opposite. He wanted the band to go outside the box, outside the room, and even outside the planet.
Yeah, to the next Andromeda strain, right? Bootsy had to maintain the internal metronome that he learned from James Brown, while George Clinton was encouraging everyone else on stage to play loose. Because if Bootsy lost the one, then the whole song would collapse into noise, which is totally true. George Clinton famously described this integration. He said he needed Bootsy to be the anchor because Bootsy held the one with such military discipline, it allowed the horns, the guitars, and the singers to go as far outside as they wanted to go. And boy, did they venture far out. George always said that Bootsy was the string, and the rest of the band was the kite. And the kite can fly anywhere as long as someone is holding the string tight to the ground. Because if Bootsy let go of the one, that kite was just going to blow away. And that's the truth. No one would be able to understand where the beat was.
How right George was, Max. Without the one, Parliament Funkadelic might have just been another experimental psychedelic rock band.
Yeah, nobody would have understood it.
Right, but because Bootsy integrated that heavy rhythmic discipline into George's outside arrangement, the music remained danceable.
That's right, because you knew where the one was.
You were able to follow it, yeah.
That's right, because you knew where the one was. You could have a 15-minute song about a mothership landing with bizarre lyrics and distorted guitars, or talking about an atomic dog, but as long as Bootsy was hitting that downbeat like a hammer, the audience's feet never stopped moving. And I saw this firsthand while working with them at the Apollo back in the day. Unbelievable.
This is a huge lesson for modern soul and R&B artists.
And they was wearing diapers.
Yeah. The power of the persona. Bootsy realized that William Collins was a bass player, but Bootsy was a brand.
He was.
George Clinton gave him the freedom to be a superhero. The star-shaped glasses, the rhinestone capes. It wasn't just a costume. It was a living logo.
Bootsy once said that he created characters like Casper the Friendly Ghost and Bootzilla because he was actually shy. And it's kind of hard to believe, but that's how it is. You pretend to be someone else. He used that persona as a shield to protect that creativity. And for artists today, especially in the social media era, the lesson is clear. Your brand isn't a fake version of you. It's the amplified version of your soul. Right, Mello?
Mm-hmm. And he backed that look up with technical innovation. We talk about technical self-reliance all the time.
Yes, we do.
Bootsy pioneered the use of the Neutron 3 envelope filter. He didn't want the bass to just thump. He wanted it to talk, to quack, and to breathe.
He even commissioned the legendary space bass. Now, this wasn't just a gimmick. It literally was a custom-built tool designed to handle the massive low-end frequencies he was hitting. He was literally building the hardware because the standard instruments couldn't handle the new vibe he had in his head.
That's right, Max. The story of the space bass is the ultimate tale of an artist building the physical tools needed to match their imagination. It's not just a guitar. It's a piece of P-Funk technology designed to bridge the gap between James Brown's discipline and George Clinton's with cosmic chaos.
Exactly, Mello. So here's the breakdown of the space bass saga. So in 75, Bootsy had a vision for a bass that looked like it belonged on a spaceship, the Mothership, actually. Mm-hmm. So he famously sketched this star-shaped body with a star-shaped headstock on a piece of paper. Some say it was on a napkin. It doesn't really matter. But whatever it was on, he started to take that drawing around to the famous luthiers on 48th Street in Manhattan back in the day when there was a ton of guitar makers on the street. And everybody turned him down. They're like, the shape is impossible. It won't balance. It's a gimmick. It won't sound good. And Bootsy just got so frustrated. So everywhere he goes, he's trying to find someone who's interested in possibly building this bass for him. Nobody wants to take it. Nobody. So he's in Warren, Michigan, and he sees a sign for a music store owned by a guy named Gus Zoppi, and it's primarily an accordion shop. So it's like hardly the place you think you'd find the future of funk. But Bootsy's undaunted, and at this point, he's had it. He just doesn't care. He's just got to find somebody who might be interested. So he goes in, and he finds a young guitar builder in the back named Larry Pless. Bootsy shows him the drawing and asks him if he could build it. Larry don't care about the rules of guitar making. He don't care. He wants a challenge. He's an architect looking for a chance. So he agrees to build this thing for like $900.
It was a chance, but a worthwhile chance. If he was going to end up with what he needed, and Bootsy was ready for the opportunity, built for this new vibe in his head, the space bass wasn't just built for looks. It was built for technical self-reliance. Bootsy needed it to do things standard Fender basses couldn't.
He wanted something that nobody was thinking about, Mello. Nobody. He wanted to do things Fender and Gibson or any other bass maker at the time was like, we ain't doing that. Nobody does that. Who does that? So the original space bass had multiple output jacks, and this allowed Bootsy to send one signal to a clean amp and another one to a heavy one, which created the low-end foundation, and another signal to his pedal board, which is where the Mutron, Quack, and Fuzz was. So this is why his bass sounded both wet and heavy at the same time. It wasn't one single output that fed his effects or was split. It was two separate outputs. So one output fed his clean sound, and the second output fed his affected sound. That's why his bass sounded so cool. No one did that. Let me just repeat that. No one did that. I think if you had asked Leo Fender to put multiple outputs in a bass, he would have looked at you like, are you out of your mind?
Next was the mirror pick guard. This was designed to reflect the stage lights back of the audience, turning the instrument into a visual light show to match the P-Funk spectacle.
That's because I'm Bootsy, baby.
It's always got to be about the show.
Always about the show. That's exactly right. And now back to my geeky musician side and the massive low end of this bass. So the mahogany body and the specific wiring were designed to handle the low subsonic frequencies that Bootsy was chasing. The kind of bass that you just don't hear, but you feel it in your chest. And as we say, you feel it like low down there, like something starts shaking between your legs. Like that's how low it is. Oh, like so low.
So how did you get the notes so low? Was it just a special pickup?
Nope, Mello. It was actually a genius move in technical self-reliance. Remember how I said before that the bass had multi-outputs and no other bass did? Mm-hmm. Well, that's exactly how he did it, because he didn't have one plug on that space bass. He had two. It's what they call a split system, Mello. One plug went to space, all the crazy filters and wah-wahs, and the other stayed on Earth. It went straight to the massive 18-inch subwoofers, and that kicked some serious ass.
And that's the lesson for the creators. Separate your foundation from your flair.
Ain't that some shit? I just love that.
If you want to experiment with crazy sounds in your mix, keep a clean anchor track underneath it. That's how you keep the funk heavy while you're flying the kite. And of course, Max, in life, there's always a rub.
You better believe it.
Shortly after the bass was finished, it became the centerpiece of the Stretchin' Out in Bootsy's Rubber Band album cover. However, tragedy struck when the original bass was stolen in Cincinnati. For years, it was gone. Larry Pless built him a second one, the replacement space bass, but Bootsy always missed the original.
Yeah, it's never the same.
Right. Well, years later, a fan spotted the unmistakable star-shaped bass in a Cincinnati pawn shop.
It never left. That's weird that it never left Cincy.
He was right there all the time. Bootsy was alerted, and the Mothership finally returned home. He still owns the original to this day.
That's right. It's a living logo. The space bass became the physical manifestation of Bootsy's alter egos. Bootzilla, Casper the Friendly Ghost, as we were talking before. Mm-hmm. Anyway, as George Clinton once said, Bootsy was the anchor of the funk, and the space bass was the physical anchor that held the stage down while the rest of the band floated into space. So whenever you see modern basses like Thundercat using a massive custom 6-string with crazy effects, they're following the Bootsy space bass blueprint. If the instrument you need doesn't exist. You find a garage or an accordion shop and you build it yourself.
You also hear that impact today in Childish Gambino and Thundercats' Redbone, as Max just mentioned. But when you hear that high-register, fuzzy melodic bass, that's a direct blueprint from Bootsy's P-Funk era. He taught us that the bass doesn't have to stay in the basement. It can be the lead singer.
But here's the architect lesson for our peers. Even when the shows were chaotic, there were 20 people on stage in diapers and spaceships, Bootsy was still holding down the one. He took that James Brown discipline and hid it inside a party.
He showed us that you can be experimental and as out there as you want, as long as your foundation is unbreakable. He wasn't just a sideman anymore. He formed Bootsy's rubber band and proved an architect could lead the entire project.
That's right, but being a superhero comes with a price. We're going to talk about the business of staying relevant and how he became the master of ceremonies for the next generation right after the break.
You're listening to Max and Mello's Architects of Soul. We're going to take a short break.
Nope, we ain't done yet, so stick around.
And that's a fact.
Thanks for tuning into Architects of Soul. Our music is waiting for you.
We're back on Architects of Soul. One more time for the people in the back.
Yeah, that's right.
If you like this content, please give a like and subscribe. And remember, if you want to see the star bass and the capes, we've got the video version available on our YouTube page.
You bet. All right, Mel, let's talk about the pivot. When James Brown fired the Collins brothers, it felt like the end. But it was actually the opening act. And when Bootsy went to see Funkadelic perform for the first time, man, it was total cultural shock.
Right. He walked in and saw George Clinton wearing a diaper and furs, looking like a bunch of people escaped from an asylum. But the music was captivating. And coming from the tuxedos of the James Brown band, for Bootsy, it was culture shock. And Bootsy almost walked out, Max, but the music got him.
Yeah, Mello, it's funny how things happen. Let's talk about the pivot. People always forget that Bootsy and Catfish were only in James Brown's band for 11 months, as we talked about before. Mm-hmm. So that 11-month boot camp gave them a lifetime of discipline. So when they got fired after the Cincinnati show, Mello, they went back to the local garage to figure out their next move.
And that's when the Mothership landed in Ohio.
Oh, hell yeah.
And George Clinton tracked them down to that garage, Max. He knew that they were the best in the business, but they were being held back by the old rules.
That's right, Mel. George walked into that garage and gave Bootsy the ultimate architect's permission slip. He told him everything James Brown told you not to do, every extra note, every crazy sound, every wild idea, I want you to do it all right here.
Man, that's the definition of architectural freedom. James Brown built the foundation, but George Clinton told Bootsy he could build a skyscraper with neon lights and a disco ball on top.
Yep, there's a lesson for every artist. Sometimes you need a mentor who teaches you the rules. That would be James Brown. And then you need a mentor who gives you the freedom to break them. And that would be George Clinton. So Bootsy had both. And that is why he's the legend. And George sure knew what he was doing. He told Bootsy, I have the circus. I have the circus. I just need a ringmaster to hold down the beat. He took that military discipline, gave him a cape, said, here's your top hat, here's your whip. And this pivot is a vital lesson for R&B and soul artists today. Your career isn't a sprint. It's a marathon of reinvention, and we're learning that.
Just look at the Silk Sonic project with Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak. Most legends would just take a paycheck to play a solo, but they brought Bootsy in to be the master of ceremonies. He literally gave them the name Silk Sonic. He wasn't just a guest. He was a spiritual advisor for the entire vibe. That's
pretty funny, man. Bootsy's the spiritual advisor. Yeah, Bootsy, baby. So, this is the architect as a consultant. He's teaching the new generation how to stay authentic. That's some badass shit.
Yeah.
Bootsy once said that he realized his weakness, his soft, whispery, talking voice could be his greatest strength. And it really is, because we all know him by that. Mm-hmm. He leaned into that Baby Bubba vocal style, and now it's one of the most sampled sounds in history.
The lesson for us and all the upcoming artists: don't hide what makes you different. Those flaws are actually your signature.
They sure as shit are.
He's even been the bridge to the digital age with Bootsy's Funk University and his Funk Not Fight initiative, using the groove to tackle violence.
Yep, he stayed relevant because he remained a student of the game while being its greatest teacher. We're going to wrap this up and talk about the final So Fire lessons after one last break.
And you listen to Max and Mello's Architects of Soul, and we'll be right back.
That's right. Stay with us for the wrap.
We're in the home stretch of this journey with the Star Child himself. From the cornfields of Ohio to the James Brown boot camp, all the way to the edge of the galaxy with P-Funk. Bootsy Collins taught us that you have to find the one in your own life before you can give it to the world.
Oh, so very true, Mello. And I really think one of the biggest takeaways from this is it heightens that it doesn't take decades to learn a life-changing lesson. In just 11 months of high-pressure discipline, Bootsy gained the architectural foundation that allowed them to spend the next 50 years building the P-Funk empire and beyond. It is a perfect example of how one season of intense mentorship can define your entire career. He's the living proof that a true architect doesn't just build for themselves. They build a blueprint that others can follow. Whether it's the way he used technology or the way he turned his weakness into a worldwide brand, he's shown every upcoming artist in R&B and soul today that authenticity is the highest currency.
And the final lesson, Max, Bootsy always says the funk is not just music, it's a way of life. For us as creators, that means the new vibe isn't just about the latest software.
No.
It's about the spirit you put into it.
Oh, hell yes.
It's about being a mentor to the person coming right up behind you, just like George was to him.
That's right. His impact is inescapable. Every time a bass player hits a cracked note, every time a singer whispers a soulful ad-lib, every time a producer prioritizes the one, Bootsy is there. He taught us to stay curious, stay colorful, and most importantly, stay disciplined.
He's still out there today using the funk not fight movement to prove that the groove can actually heal. That's the ultimate architect move, building something that makes the world better than you found it.
Isn't that beautiful? And as always, we want to close with our final thought and our hope for all of us, our art, our craft, and our creations.
Keep that soul fire burning, protect your sound, nurture your creativity, own your voice, and remember the lessons from the giants who came before.
And yes, protect your masters and seek out wise mentors who can guide you on your journey. And until next we meet, peace and soul, y'all.